Welcome to the Fourth Row Podcast, your exclusive source for 2A basketball. And now, your hosts, coming to you from the Slim 4 studio, Andy and Benny Hill.
So we appreciate that. So we're gonna move into our segment, which we call the Power 5. Actually, we're going to talk about what we say really matters, and that's the Power 5.
Bingo.
The Power 5 this year is sponsored by our good friends at Barney Trucking. If you want to drive one of the big, beautiful blue or white trucks up and down the road, keeping the lights on here in central Utah, reach out to them at barneyjobs.com. Coach, just for you, our rules or a groundwork for the Power 5. It is a ranking system, but really what it is we're saying who is playing the hottest right now. If the state tournament started today, who are the teams who could compete for a state championship? So the Des News always rolls out their thing. We've got the RPI for their rankings. We've kind of prided ourselves on this Power 5 to say these are the teams who are really playing the best as of right now. And
irregardless, RPI doesn't factor into it. Mm-mm. And well, of course, the Des News rankings don't factor into it. It's just what we on our gut feel with our eyeballs and our tests say who are the best teams.
Yeah. So and we like to say, we're not going to just randomly throw something out there and say, hey, this team or that team. We're going to say, all right, this is legitimately why we say these guys are in here. We usually have our top 5. This year we've introduced something we call the dark horses. So the teams that are kind of the bubble teams. Sure. They're trying to figure out, are they in, they're out, but they're not really going away. So we'll start with our dark horses at the bottom. Benny, why don't you talk about our 2 dark horses?
You got 2 dark horses. I believe they were on the dark horses last week as well. Our first one, Homer Alert. We have to announce if it's a Homer Alert, I announce it. The Gunnison Bulldogs. I still think the Bulldogs have a good core group of guys. If they can get the chemistry dialed in, I think they can still make some noise. Yep. You just played the Gunnison Bulldogs.
Yeah, I did. I don't know if you want to put it or not, but I was impressed by Gunnison, and I mean that in a way that you look at body work, the 2A teams we played, there was no give, especially early, and there was definitely some consistency that I would agree. A dark horse is a team who is tough enough to make a winning stretch games, and I agree that Gunnison is one of those teams. I actually thought they would bend a little quicker, and I don't mean that in any negative way. Just the way that people respond to what we do, they responded well, and they did good things. I don't need to discuss as far as what they need to do and what not do, but I did feel that, and I do think that is a team who does have some effort there. They have some resiliency there. They have some ability. That those pieces, they come on together. I thought they played well against us. I mean, they gave us a good game, which I was happy about.
Yeah, it was a 12-point game at the half, and some people say, it's a 12-point game, but it's for us against a team like yours this year, a number 1 team in 3A, arguably the best team in 3A. For that first half, they played remarkably well. And against some other top teams in 2A, they played really good for stretches of time. Yep. It's just, how do we put that together?
How
do we get all the players right together, what we need to, and get that? So that's kind of where we have gone.
So the Bulldogs currently led by, in scoring pretty equal, John Wilden at 10.9. Our Homer Alert Jet, he's coming at 9.9, almost 10 points a game, and Cody Hammond at 6.4. Yeah. I enjoyed. I told at least Jet. I told him, I says, the funnest thing about playing Manti is you can't really run stuff. You just have to go play. You just have to make basketball plays because they're gonna force you to take you out of what you want to, any sets or anything like. They're going to take you out of it. You just have to go. Yep. And the easy thing is just go to the rim.
Right.
And I think John, he got some shots off. He hit some threes. And he played relatively well. Jet went to the rim, and Cody went to the rim. He just didn't score very well. Mm-hmm. But I think if they can keep attacking like that, I think they're going to do some good things.
Good.
Our next APA West Valley is our other dark horse. Yeah. APA West Valley, since Gunnison beat them here at home, I think they've played North Sevier and Rockwell. Yeah. And they handled North Sevier and they handled Rockwell 81-47. I think they're scary good. Have you seen them play at all?
I haven't. No.
They're tough. They're long. They got some
lanky
guys that can jump out of the gym. Gunnison played them really well at home and beat them, but I think they're one of those teams that they've got enough pieces together. They got some big guys that can dunk. They got some really good point guards that can move. They play with a ton of passion, almost too much at certain levels. But they're kind of a team, and I don't know how it is in 3A, but 2A you have the traditional rural school regions, and then you have the two regions with the charter and private schools, the up north ones. And unless you play in kind of a cross-region game, you don't ever see them until the state tournament. So this is a team who I think could surprise some people just because people don't get to see them.
Yeah, they play a good fun pace. They chuck up a lot of threes. They can go get it offensively. So it's a fun brand of basketball. They half court. It's like they pressure in a half court zone. So they're looking for turnovers. I think they'll be a dangerous team.
Mm-hmm. Let's move right into the Power 5. Let's talk about our number 5 team.
American Heritage, the number 5 team. They still keep winning. They're 6-0, led by Stephen LaPlay, 15.6, and Ricky Patterson, 13.8.
Yeah. So we talked about their next big game. They play Enterprise at home this week.
Yes, this Saturday.
So Enterprise, we'll talk about them in a minute. Enterprise goes up and plays the Vivint Arena against Emory. Mm-hmm. I think Tuesday or Wednesday, and then on their way back home, they pick up American Heritage sometime this week.
Sometime this week, yeah.
So that'll be interesting. American Heritage is another team. They play up north. We don't know a lot about them. They did play San Juan, who's retooling from last year.
Right.
They lost all their guys. We talked to their coach, and he said they're legit. He said they're good. They shoot the ball. They're quick. He said they could easily compete. So it'd be interesting to see what they can do. Again, we don't see a lot of them. Those regions kind of do their own thing. Last year we had Roland Hall, who played really well, who was, kind of everybody says Roland Hall legit. And we kept saying, hey, they're real. They played South Severe in the quarterfinals last year and just blew them up. Yeah. And everybody's like, holy cow. And then one of their big guys got hurt in the semis. But I think American Heritage could be that team this year.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I actually have seen them a little bit.
Have you?
Yeah.
They play you look at their schedule down the road. I don't know if they're playing the real teams, but they are scheduled to play RSL and Wasatch Academy. So I don't know if they're playing their travel teams or their in-house teams, but they're putting themselves out there this year.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Millard Eagles.
You can speak to the Millard Eagles.
Millard Eagles. I think Millard. See, I'd probably put them at 3. They're legit. Hunter and Brant and Hunter are as good as backcourt, and kids can play ball, and their role players are coming along. And not role players, not a negative thing. It's playing off of 2 really good players.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they're physical. They same thing. They battle tough. Against us, and if they need a third scorer, and if they can get that consistency out of that third guy. The hard part they're struggling with right now is just watching. I watched 3 games there before our game, and our own game is that 3, 4, 5, 6 guy has got to figure out how to not just score but provide for Stevens and Rhodes.
Good point.
Because if they don't get that, they're not going to make it. But if they do, that is a dang good team. Mm-hmm. And so whether that's, Gillen's coming in and figuring a way to not just make some shots, but actually find a way to help those other 2 score. Mm-hmm. And then the curly-headed kid.
Davies.
Is that what it is?
Yes. Davies.
Same thing. If he can figure out a way to, get his handles clean up a little bit, find a way to help those other 2 score, not just score, but if they can get 2 or 3 assists to those 2, that's a very dangerous team and a very good team. They can ride those 2 a long ways, and they're going to. And they're going to be competitive all the way through. But the truth is, they could, like you said, push through if they could find just a little bit there.
Yeah, I think that was the point when we come into this season when we talked about Millard. They lost 2 or 3 key role players.
Yeah, Rasmussen.
That did great things. What was the tall guys? Rasmussen was the tall, skinny guy. Yeah. The bigger, the post player.
What was it? I know who you're talking
about. Help us out, Bones.
Was it not Brad Shaw, was it?
I can't remember.
Darn it, we should know that. Anyway, but people would say, Miller's going to be they'll be loaded next year. They still got Rhodes and Stevens. but it's those role guys, those chemistry guys that do a lot of the make winning plays without showing up in the scorebook. That is the huge. That's a big difference maker. But Parowan, they went down to the Hodson, played in the Cedar this past week. They beat Parowan. I would have liked to have seen this game. Stevens put up 27, Rhodes put up 25, and I think Felder put up 26. Yeah. So that would have been a great game there. They lost to Canyon View, and they beat San Juan 62-58. Let's get all these games being carried by Stevens and Rhodes.
Yeah, so they still got another tough week. They got South Summit this week and North St. Pete. I don't know what St. Pete's like this
They're
year.
Tough, physical, strong.
But I know South Summit's good, so they still got 2 more upper classification games before they start region.
Those are 2 perfect games for them because they're both winnable, but they're also going to push them into those really physical. Well, North St. Pete's going to be very physical with them. South Summit, guard plays good, big's good. They are young, and so they make some young decisions. But Millard, then I guess that would be for me as watching that South Summit game would probably be the really big opener is, okay, can we take advantage of their youth and beat them? Because there's some pieces there that I mean, kind of see where the growth is.
So Millard is the prototypical Power 5 team. They're 7-5. They went through a losing stretch, through the just before the holidays, but yet they're going to be there at the end. So we can never move. They just won't come out of our Power 5, no matter what the other rankings say. They just won't. And even the RPI has them down below I think they're 7 or 8, something like that. So
top 4.
Number 3,
the Kanab Cowboys. The Kanab. We kind of have a soft spot for Kanab.
Sure.
They're a circus ride.
Yeah, they're 9-2. They have arguably 2 of the best players in 2A with Kason Janes and Jordan Cornell. Jordan Cornell, as far as catch and shoot guy, he's one of the best.
Right.
What I think you're seeing a little bit more as I'm watching a little bit of Kanab. People are aware of that now. Right. Cornell's not getting the shots off that he was before, and Kason's really just getting beat up. And they're another team where it's like who's their next guys. They've got Logan Little, who's their big. He plays a good role player. They've got some other good solid guys down there. It's just can they really get moving? We had them at number 1 for quite a while, and they still have the potential. It's just they can get all the pieces together and get them figured out.
So this past weekend they had their Cowboy Classic in Kanab. They played North Sevier, beat them 75-52. And then they played Richfield and lost 57-47.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the thing that makes me, because I agree coming into the season, I felt a little higher on Kanab. But that game, the Richfield score is a prime example. You're just playing a really good physical defensive team. And they kind of struggled. And I think that's the area where Kanab's just not quite, but like I said, good enough to be there. But these other 2 or 3 teams are probably better right now. And Kason hasn't been playing since. He came back second week of the season or third.
Yeah, he was banged up.
But anyways, good team and definitely have some really good pieces and some opportunity.
Yeah, and we saw this is kind of where Kanab was last year. They were kind of floating around. They limped their way into the playoffs. They play a play-in game at APA West Valley last year.
APA Draper,
excuse me. And then all of a sudden they just took off. Yeah. And they have the capability of doing it.
So got shooters, got size.
Just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with them. So we got Kanab at our number 3 team. Number 2,
Enterprise Wolves at 6-1. Coach Randall's got them. They just move along. They plug and play every year, and they don't do anything sexy. They don't have big scores, but they just keep winning. Balanced attack. Trayson Whitman at 12.8. Dax Hunt 10, Ty Staley 10, Brady Crouch 9.2, and Austin Thomas 10.2. So 5 starters, 10 points a game. That's just Enterprise.
Yeah. They come out, play good defense. You know what they're going to run at you. It's just Enterprise is Enterprise. They got some big games this week with Emory and American Heritage before region, and then that Southern region is just a gauntlet every night. It's tough. So I think Enterprise is set up to where they want to be right now. I think they're playing well coming off the break. This is a big week for them before they jump in. Number 1 team.
No surprise, South Sevier Rams.
Yep. They're tough. Coach Christensen is pushing their guys this year. Obviously, they played you guys. Mm-hmm. They beat Juab this week. They lost a tough one. Desert Hills is good, obviously.
Yeah, they're good.
They're a good team. Turned around, beat Hurricane this week. And then their next game is January 10th against Enterprise when they jump into region.
Talk to us a little bit about South Severe, because we've explained what our opinions of South Severe and their personnel, but explain South Severe from your perspective.
I think the growth out of South Severe right now, my favorite still is Emilio. I mean, that kid, watching film over and over and watching, I just love watching him play.
Impressive.
Because he does the small stuff and he provides the rest. And the hard part is going to be where they get on rebounds. I mean, we beat them 18 on the boards, maybe 20. And a lot of people will say, well, size, and I'm like, I mean, 3 years ago we played with all 6-footers, and size is relative when it comes to rebounding. I mean, yes, you're going to give some up, but you cannot. So that's my question is for South Severe is okay, well, how do we get that little extra toughness on the boards? Make sure that we don't just rely on the three, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I think they're the team to beat, and I told them that after our game. I do. I think they're the team to beat. I think they've got the pieces. I think they've got the kids, they're athletes, and all the pressure is on them. As much as they want to turn it off, it's not because they are the best team.
Oh yeah.
And so for them is okay. Well, how do we figure this out, right? I mean, and they are. He scheduled a good schedule. He's pushing them. And what you have to do if you're going to make that run, and it's a really good team. They played well. I'd like to see Keegan step up and do some things. Kid's really talented. I like him a lot. He's got to be more physical on the boards. He's got to be more of a defensive presence with his size. Emilio's going to be Emilio. Ridge is going to be Ridge. That group's who they are. But I've liked seeing it feels like Emilio's getting a little bit more of an opportunity to kind of lead this group this year, and I think it's helping him a lot. And now I think that if Keegan can really step up and kind of make that push there, because I mean you have those. I mean Riley's playing tougher. Riley's shooting better this year, which is going to help him. Mm-hmm. And they and they have some solid players coming off and get some of those guys. It's funny listening to. Early on, because I'm watching a bunch of their games before play them. And I'm like, wow, they're sophomores. Like, well, they're not sophomores anymore. They're varsity players. And I mean, that's what it comes to, right? Exactly, he's not a sophomore anymore. It doesn't matter. Like, he has to be a legit varsity player. And so, it's a dang good team. And again, I think they're the team to beat too. I agree with you. And they've got to make those few extra things to make sure they don't drop one. Because for a team like that, when you're the best and you got to make sure that you kind of get the rest of that stuff kind of cleaned up before you step in those big games. And Enterprise will be a fun one. That'll be an interesting one to see when they play them.
Good contrast in styles there.
Yeah. Enterprise is a tiny bit behind where I thought they'd be, to be honest, but I think they're almost there. I watched them play a couple of games at preview, and I mean, Bud does a great job, and they do a great job, and they're fun to watch, and he'll have them there, and that's the question is okay, well, can he take away some of those pieces from South Severe? And he definitely can, and see, South Severe's just got to make sure that they don't go one directional, and they'll probably be fine. But.
Good intake, input.
This has been
good input.
This is fascinating.
Yeah, it's fun.
We don't get during the season we get some input from coaches, but nothing to where a third party can come in and say, yeah, I played them. Hey, this is what I think they should do or shouldn't do. And so this is awesome. This is what we've always wanted to do.
Not saying I'm right. So.
Once the camera and the microphone goes off, we'll pick your brain about Gunnison.
All right, you got it.
I got some things to bounce off.
So this was great. Again, our Power 5, as always, is sponsored by Barney Trucking. Just a quick recap: our two dark horses, American Heritage and Gunnison Valley.
I'll not throw Parowan as a dark horse, honestly. If
I agree with you. Yes.
It's a dangerous team. I don't know that they can win 4 in a row unless they clean up some stuff, but they are dark horse.
Yeah.
Well, if you have Brock Felder on your team, you have a chance. And we've always said that they did start in our Power 5, and they will fluctuate in there. But you have that kind of player. You have a chance to win.
Yeah, and if somebody's, I don't want to use the word dumb, but if somebody's dumb enough to play them at their pace and at their style, you're you're probably going to lose.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean,
and
you get Brock and
you're right. They are one team. You got Brock, you got Luke Millett, they got the Robinson kid. They've got some pieces down there.
Absolutely.
And it took last year. It was mid-season. We actually made a road trip down south, and San Juan went into Parowan on a Saturday afternoon, and Parowan just blitzed them. I mean, it wasn't even a game when we're like, "Holy cow, here's Parowan," and it was like a cheat grass fire. It just went really fast, and then it was boom, and then they were gone. And so
that's a good way
we've been kind of waiting to see.
They went from like a dark horse to the number one, just like that, and then they went back.
And then it was back down. But again, arguably the best, talent in 2A is Brockfield. I mean, the guy is a special talent. There's no question about it. So they're kind of hovering out there, and it'll be interesting to see Region 19, which is that South region. It's a gauntlet. So it's a playoff type atmosphere every single night. And so now South Sevier, Kanab,
you get
Parowan,
2 games out of
Beaver,
all of them.
Enterprise. These guys beat up on each other for the next 5 weeks once they start, and so that's when you really start to see, all right, how's this all going to settle out? And even last year, as good as San Juan was, they dropped 3 region games.
Well, and Enterprise still had them, but
and it's going to be a fun end of the season.
Yep.
So, well, as we this is quite possibly the longest podcast we've ever done.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, it flies by. Once you get going, you don't realize we got to be close to 2 hours right now, right?
We are 1 point.
It's crazy how fast
almost
it goes.
2, yeah.
So anyway, this
like I said, we could take up all night if you're okay with it, man.
It's been an amazing night. So we'll wrap up tonight. Our G Telco Light Burst Broadband are good folks. The Sanders family here in Gunnison. They're always good to support us. They're huge Vikings fans. Usually we give the update on the Vikings. The Vikings got blown out today by the Green Bay Packers. And it's just usually we use our kind of a wrap-up summary to get some of our final thoughts for tonight. This was kind of my final thought. The Packers the first season were horrible. They're 4-8, right? They're just bad. They're trying to decide, do they bring Jordan Love off the bench to replace Aaron Rodgers? And all of a sudden they light this fire, and now they're playing really good. And so my closing thought for tonight is I'm interested to see what team out there is the Green Bay Packers, right? What team? We got a bunch of teams that are kind of hovering around that 500 mark. You got Duchesne, you got Millard, you got a lot of these other North Summit. We talked about North Summit. They're just kind of there. But once they get into region, who catches fire? Because really it's that last 20% of the season to say, especially in 2A right now, who can really go make a run. And hopefully somebody isn't on the opposite side where the Vikings were. They're 12-2 and blowing people out, and all of a sudden it's like, geez, they look like a disaster. So, it's a game of runs, it's a game of consistency, and it's a game of momentum. And it'll be interesting to see the second half who really is good and who can keep up with that and who can't. So that's kind of my parting thought for tonight.
My parting thought is and I mentioned this earlier, and I wrote this down. Andy and I, we got into this not just to be pontificators about basketball, because everyone's got an opinion, and that only goes for so long. But we got in this to get to know people better, and to share people's stories, and to share, to highlight kids and to highlight coaches, because I think that's what makes all this happen. Is people put in a lot of time that goes unnoticed. But I wrote down Pinnacle High School early on, and I would have never thought we'd be talking about Pinnacle High School when we brought you on here. Obviously, we would talk about Manti and winning and state championships and all those kind of things. But those are the kind of things that are special to me, is to hear you talk about and talk fondly about your experience 1 year at Pinnacle High School.
Yep.
And the things you learned there that put you on a trajectory to be the coach you are today. And the people that you learned from there. And who would have ever thought look back, you're like, I can't believe I coached at Pinnacle High School.
Right.
But that was the start for you. So my final takeaway is everyone's got an awesome story, and I'm glad you came to share your story. And it all started from Pinnacle High School, which I absolutely love that.
Thanks. Yeah, no.
Do you have a parting shot?
No, I appreciate you coming, give me the opportunity to come on. And
I was hoping you wouldn't cancel from the bad weather.
No, weather's weather. It's one of those things. You go to a game. So
yeah, true.
No, it was I love it. It's a fun thing to be a part of. I'm very grateful to those, again, going back to, Escalante, Pinnacle, and of course, parents to brothers to coaches to, guys I've worked with, working with you, and just, I love those relationships are so fun. And then, of course, those player relationships you get a chance to work with these boys is special. And it's something that I love it. And I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit today. And, some of those things I get to deal with. And
do you ever get tired of winning?
No. No. It does change a little bit, though. There is something there. It was interesting. I sitting down with Mark Hugentolber when I was early on in Manti and some of those guys. Mark made a comment to me about how some things had changed to where it was more relief than an excitement type of thing. And that's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Where when you go play some of those teams now, the pressure is different for sure, where people just expect you to roll them. It's like, if you don't win by 30, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, yes, you've been a little bit spoiled by some of these things, but good heavens. And so I think that it does change a little bit, and it does change how you, just some of those feelings about when games end and finish, that, some of those big time wins all of a sudden are, we need to get through this. It's easy. I have admiration for those who coach and battle. Man, I'm telling you, the truth is I watch a lot of those coaches who they are doing a fantastic job and they're struggling. And, whether that's getting guys out or whether that's, in those conversations I have with some of those coaches, I love to work with 1A coaches. I watch a bunch of their film and try to give back to what really based me. And so I do talk a lot to a lot of 1A coaches and do watch a lot of stuff like that. And just have a ton of respect for those coaches who daily grind without that opportunity that I've had to have some of that success. And I don't take for granted what I've, been able to do. And it's my coach didn't win a state championship. My little brother, they won it 2 years after I got out of school. But my coach died my sophomore year. Had a surgery for sleep apnea and just fell asleep that night and then woke up. And he's my cousin as well, and he had a daughter my age. But there's those guys like him who coach for 22 years and don't win one, and maybe don't even win a region championship. And I have so much respect for them, because it's so hard. It is so hard, and it just consumes you. But I try to do everything I can to have that balance, especially with my family. I love going home, no matter win or loss. And kids make everything just so much, a perspective. And but no, I'm just insanely grateful for the opportunity I've had. And then I do have so much respect for guys who do it the right way and who build those relationships with those boys. And they're doing the right thing. I mean, there's guys who can be better and there's guys who can be worse. But it's fun. It's fun to see coaches work hard. It's fun to see coaches build boys and turn out better young men. One
last thing I'm going to ask, and I don't know if you have any other question, but you're very passionate on the sidelines.
Yeah.
You're a very passionate guy. I did some terrible things. I look back. It's like, dude, turn the dial down. Yeah. And how do you celebrate big wins?
You mean in the locker room? Or
Absolutely, in the locker room. People don't get to see this kind of stuff, but how do you celebrate wins? Some coaches are real stoic, and they say, act like you've been there before. And how do you celebrate wins?
We aren't the water bottle guys. I've been watching college basketball the last 3 years, and I'm watching them win these big games, and I'm watching them go crazy in the locker room. And, the truth, I'm always evaluating myself, should I be doing stuff like that? Because that's not me.
Oh, well. Yeah.
And so, I watch some of that, and I'm watching different programs that you watch. And I mean, it's a preseason game. Now, if you be the number one team in the country, yeah, no, but some of these, so no, we don't do that. The games where there's a lot of feeling, there's excitement. I mean, guys can feel when you lock in the locker room and it's a game. But I go in and we break down all of our stats after every game before I walk in the locker room. So there's time there where now if it's a region championship victory or big time victories, then yeah, we're in the locker room celebrating.
Yeah.
But if it's not, and it's just a big win, there's just good passion, good excitement. We don't go crazy. It's like I said, I've been watching that the last 3 years. It's kind of an interesting change that I'm seeing, and I can't figure that out quite, like exactly. So that's not really. It's weird because Lacey's like, well, geez, as far as me on the sidelines, me in the gym versus me outside, because Lacey's like, people don't like sometimes get you because they're like, he's, and they ask me all the time, like, what's he like when he gets home? It's like, a good dad. I don't know.
Chill guy.
Yeah. It's just good energy and excitement. I think our guys, we do have expectations, and it's not the stoic, but it's also not the go crazy. We're pretty in the middle. Mm-hmm. We do try to celebrate how we won, and so we're trying to identify, those things, and so yeah, I guess in between. But big wins are big wins. So, yeah, you're going to have a good time with that. And you got to have – we've had some – one of our guys had slipped in a video of one of our championship wins, and it got published. And that's really uncomfortable for me.
In the locker room?
Yeah. And people, they were very – they were very like, that was fun to see. And that's actually kind of uncomfortable for me to have that. And so I guess that's one of the reasons why we don't do that a lot. It's just not – it is, but it isn't, right?
Mm-hmm. I got you.
I'm not doing it for the camera or the things like that. But good wins, you gotta have a good time, and but also then, like you said, you go back to good wins in season. There is a balance there where this is not. Yes, it's not why we're here. We're here to get better, but you also need to have a good time. So there's a balance there.
Gotcha. I just wondered if you ever just cut it loose, because you're pretty.
Oh, we do.
You're a pretty intense guy on the bench. But
yes, those region championship wins, those state championship wins, those big wins, absolutely. We do. We've had. You just get after. We got them. Oh yeah, the one region championship win. We had it pretty well locked up, and we got ice filled. We filled up ice with the waters, and we gave them an ice bath, and so they weren't expecting that, and that was a fun one.
Awesome.
But yeah, no, you got to go in and just get after it when it's necessary, because that's a fun thing to be a part of. So yes, we have had, thankfully, 5-6 of those games that are just. You just get after it and have some fun.
That's awesome. Just don't film it and put it on Instagram.
Yeah, that's again. We got Travis Story does a fantastic job of keeping our guys, and filming a lot of stuff, and so he's always like, "Hey, can I?" And I'm like, "Yes, you can." Anyways, it's fun because he's done a good job, kind of keeping that balance where I don't necessarily focus on, and it's been fun to have guys like that who want to follow your program. We had our school cop, Kenny Kirkham, was awesome. He'd come in and he'd get, because he was always around, so he'd slip in the locker room and get some of our good celebrations and some of our good stuff, and he was always really cool about it. And so it's fun to have. I need guys like that, because it is us, but it's we're not doing it for that by any means.
Well, we appreciate your time tonight, Coach.
Yeah, really thank you for coming on. Maybe we'll have you come back right before the state tournament.
There you go.
Down.
All right.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Again, we appreciate you coming on. These podcasts are always great. They're fun to just sit down and visit and just talk about people's life and everything. Because I'm the same way. I see you on the sidelines, and I'm like, this is Devin, and I see him, Coach Shakespeare.
Yeah,
I see out there, and you're like, all right, how did he get there? Because you don't just one day wake up and say, all right, this is where I am, and I'm winning state championships, and I'm running a program. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. So it's awesome for us to see that, and then give all of our listeners a background and say, hey, this is who he is.
Yeah.
And I think it changes, for me, it changes dynamic with relationships when all of a sudden you understand people. You're
Absolutely.
Like, okay, yeah, this is who he really is. Yeah, on the sideline, yeah, he's going to be a passionate guy.
Right.
But this is who he really is. So we appreciate you coming on very much and spending your time down here away from your family. So for the coach, Benny Hill, for the coach Shakespeare,
the guy,
Coach Devin Shakespeare from Manti High School, for the fourth row, I'm your host,
real quick,
Hill.
before you check out, we need some Manti swag to go up here.
Absolutely.
At some point,
I thought about bringing some down.
Yeah, you should have. Yeah. Anyway, carry on, Andy.
So for Benny,
boom.
For the coach Shakespeare, Manti High School, I'm your host, Andy Hill, and for the fourth row, we're out.
Thank you for spending your time with the fourth row. For more information, check out our website at fourthrowmedia.com or send us a message through any of our social media channels.